Yes, we are live right now. The time is just gone 7 minutes past 4 p.m. Iftar will be at around 18:25 or just a bit earlier, a minute or two earlier this afternoon here in Johannesburg. But until then, I'll be in your company with the Iftar Drive, and we're going straight now to the United States of America, joined by the chairperson of March for Justice, Professor Nidal Sakr. Professor Nidal, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Ramadan Kareem to you. Welcome, and as always, an absolute pleasure having you on with us right here on Salam Media.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mubarak to you too, brother.
Yes.
I thank all the audience.
Yes, Prof, as we are enjoying a relatively peaceful Ramadan in the comfort of our homes, in the comfort of our countries, and at this point in time, we had hope that for once the Palestinians, and particularly in Gaza, the first 2 weeks, despite all the adverse conditions, the living amongst the rubble, trying to find their homes, digging for their loved ones, we thought they would have a bit of a peaceful Ramadan. But our words were not even cold, and we see this brutal assault taking place once again, and starting off with that Suhoor massacre in Gaza.
Yes, brother. That comes at no surprise. I mean, to expect anything else is a little bit wishful thinking. One of the issues that I keep insisting on all the time, that we live our life by Allah's will subhanahu wa ta'ala, in obedience and in service of his call and what he required of us and what he created us for, the way that he prescribed. So none of this can be random. None of this can be of our own hawa or of our own choosing. We have a manual, we have book, we have instructions, we have a human example and so forth, and we just need to follow what is required of us. The Zionist project, and I keep emphasizing the word project, Zionist project is an all-out war campaign against Islam, against humanity. Islam came as a service and mercy to humanity. So the attack on Islam is specifically for that reason, is to try to stop, quell, or sabotage the Muslim project of mercy for the universes. Palestine is the spearhead of that project today. And we have the camp on the other side, which is another project. So our project is basically countered by another project. So when we look at the Zionist project, in anything less than a all-out assault, all-out project, very well concerted, coordinated effort, we're missing the whole point. You cannot respond or counter a project except with another project. We, as Muslims, we have an all-encompassing project. So we have to carry it as such. We have to go about as such. And this is something that I've been saying all my life. And the mistake that we see, that we find, that you find that Zionist project is a very deliberate, very particular, worked out to the tiniest details at the end of the aggressors and the oppressors. And we do not act as a project. We act random. We act as reactionaries. We do what sounds good, what feels good for a little while, and then we just move on to something else, and we feel good about ourselves. It's not really, if you think about most of our efforts, it's really about venting out. It's really about feeling good about ourselves. It's all about feeling that we've done something instead of being passive, and so forth. That's not a project. That's not how a Muslim should act. We have the hadith that says, "La yakun ahadukum imma'a." The one of you should not be reactionary. So what do we do about this? I mean, how many times we've heard this? We grow up with it, right? Yet you find that all our actions actually are nothing but reactions. For you to counter a project with another project, there are bases. There are bases for strategic thinking. There are bases of addressing any reality. There are bases to understand what we are dealing with. and how to counter it. I mean, it's very simple. It's really not that complicated. So when we say that there is a Zionist project, that Zionist project has goals. They're actually clearly spelled out. That's what really makes it even more embarrassing for us. They're clearly spelled out. Everything they're thinking, all their intentions, their tools, their means, the channels, how they carry it, how they implement it. It's very, very clear to us, both in terms of the historical experience and both in terms of the structure that they declare and they announce, and the set of rules, laws, and mechanisms that they establish. So there is no secrets here. There is nothing for us to be confused about. The idea is take a step back, see what we are up against, how they work, what they're trying, what they are seeking, what their objectives are, and preempt that. Not only preempt that, but also create the narrative. I always keep emphasizing that we are the ones that are mandated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create the reality and the narrative for others to react, not the other way around. When we talk about the flood of Al-Aqsa, when we talk about October 7, that's an example. That's a clear example right there. October 7 is a clear example how to take the initiative, how to create the reality, how to create the narrative, how to control the narrative so others would react. Alhamdulillah, I mean, on the part of the brothers in Palestine, alhamdulillah, they're doing their part. And, I mean, may Allah reward them because they're doing it to the best that they can. And honestly, they're mastering what they're doing. In terms of us, the support, we are supposedly the backbone to them. Supposedly we are the base that they can fall back on. We are way far behind. I mean, yes, there are some good efforts here and there, but they're really not up to the challenge. They're really not up to the sacrifices and what the brothers are doing. The brothers, actually, here's the interesting thing. They made statements over and like time and again, what they expect of us, what they require of us, what they hope from us. We don't listen. We still act random. We still act, mostly, in very, unorganized fashion or reactionary fashion, and we're not really up to the challenge that we are faced with. After all, we are all responsible. The war on Gaza is a war on all of us. The fight for freedom that the people in Palestine are undertaking is not only fighting for our freedom, they're fighting for the entire humanity and the freedom of all people everywhere around the world. So the least that we can do is listen to what they ask of us, to understand what they're up against, and which is in turn what we are up against, but in different fronts, and carry our part the way that we should. Like if we're talking about, for example, like in terms of South Africa being at the lead of much of the international efforts in support of Palestine, that's an example to address, something that we really can talk about, something that we both, you and I and the brothers on your show, we've talked about time and again. And I've always highlighted and emphasized that, in all of the effort that you were doing, we have to keep in mind 1, 2, 3, and handle it as such. And many of those, things that we talked about, there's still people are very oblivion to them. And now we are at a stage where actually we have new opportunities. When you look at this Trump administration and what's happening in Palestine today, it's a great opportunity. The challenges that we are faced with are opportunities. So when you look at, instead of despairing, instead of giving in, instead of being bullied and intimidated, but what they're doing, we actually should look at it as an opportunity. Okay, now we have this reality. How can we overcome this reality to take the lead, to be in the ahead of the game, and create that narrative and that initiative for them to react?
Yes. Prof, what I'll do is I actually just want to, in fact, spend some time talking about the whole issue surrounding the United States of America. And I know in your communication to me, you've obviously said you've reiterated over and over again the main culprit being the United States of America, and entirely targeting Israel instead of US is a waste of time. And I need to understand what you actually meant by that. But before that, I just need to go for a quick ad break, and we'll be back.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Imagine a world where every child feels loved, secure, and cared for. At Beit Halima Saadia Orphanage, we are not just providing a roof over their heads, we're giving orphan children a chance for a brighter future. For just 1,500 rands a month or 18,000 rands a year, you can sponsor an orphan and transform their life. Your contribution covers essentials like food, clothing, tuition, therapy, and more, ensuring they grow in a nurturing, supportive environment. Any donation is accepted as well as daily scheduled donations. EFT directly into our account. Beit Halima Saadia Orphanage, First National Bank, account number 6313-1080-078, branch code 250737, section 18A registered. Take this step today. Contact Sister Nazarene at 083-653-5669 or email info@bhscycc.co.za.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Our brothers and sisters in Palestine are enduring unimaginable hardships. Ashraful Aid teams are on the ground, delivering crucial aid to those in need. But we can't do it alone. Palestine is suffering and they need your help. Your support can make a world of difference. Visit www.ashrafulaid.org today and donate to bring hope, relief, and healing to those who are in need.
This Ramadan, make a conscious choice, sip for change, and support Palestine Drinks Africa. With every can, you help end the genocide and stand in solidarity with Palestine. Choose between our original or sugar-free options, available in a case of 24. Every sip is a step towards justice. Every purchase, a powerful message of unity and support for the Palestinian cause. Contact 082-888-1440 or 082-7739-556 today and be part of the change. Palestine Drinks Africa. Sip for change. Liberty for everyone. You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Well, we continue with the broadcast this afternoon with my guest, Professor Nidal Sakr, joining us out of the United States of America, Chairperson for March for Justice. And as we unpack the developments in Palestine and also looking at the latest massacre that is taking place, but again, we know it's being done with the full blessing of the United States of America in each and every way. And we've seen the hypocrisy, we've seen the duplicity of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who initially with the ceasefire tried to take credit for, obviously for the ceasefire, and now he's given Netanyahu an open license to continue. And this is what Professor Nidal is saying, that again, the main culprit in this is the United States of America, and entirely targeting Israel instead of the US is very much a waste of time. Prof, let's just talk a bit about this, because this is very, very important in terms of what you're saying, because again, looking at South Africa as well, we've seen Trump early in his presidency have a go at South Africa, kicking the ambassador out. And, all these things have actually been playing out. And again, looking at South Africa again, in terms of our response, again, we see like you mentioned, missed opportunities when situations like these arise.
Okay, brother. When it comes to the United States, we need to look at it in two different perspectives. One of them, when it comes to the war on Palestine, and the other one, the war on South Africa. So if we talk about the war on Palestine, which started at least the last episode during Biden's time. When the warfare started, of course, with full support and coordination and directions and instructions and involvement of the United States against Gaza right after October 7. Blinken, at the time, the U.S. State Secretary, came to the Middle East, met with the Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Morocco, and Egypt, and Bahrain as well. He met with them, and he himself made that statement. They said that it was all like every time we went to the Arab capital, they told us finish them off, go all the way, and they would make like public statements to the contrary. But they were all pushing for the complete annihilation of Gaza and the resistance in Gaza, represented by Hamas mostly and others. So they provided the funding, they provided the support, they provided the logistics, they provided the oil, they provided the arms, and they provided that land corridor to counter the Houthi embargo against Israel. So when you have actions like this, the front, that you are dealing with, number one, US, Israel as the obvious ones, but then you have like all of these Arab capitals as part of the attack, and these are actually much more dangerous than the US in terms of carrying that attack. Then we have, of course, like Europe and so on and so forth. So what do? Now you know that's who to target. Now you know who the enemy is. When we saw the actions taken by South Africa, when we saw the actions taken by lawyers and attorneys from all over the world, they were all directed against Israel. Israel is only carrying the bidding of all of the other parties that I just mentioned. So where is the campaign against the US? Where is the campaign against those Arab countries? When we protest, why don't we go protest and demonstrate to the US embassy demanding expelling US ambassadors, US diplomatic missions, US companies? We did the boycott to a large extent by popular movement, which was great. We did the BDS, which is amazingly successful and so forth. Where is the other part? Where's the popular pressure in terms of against the presence, the companies, the influence, the military bases, the diplomatic missions, the embassies against US and against all of the other countries supporting this war on Gaza? Where is it? We did not do that. When we did the filing at the ICC, ICJ, where is the US? The US was not even mentioned. So if you're going against Israel, and Israel is already isolated, Israel has been isolated since day one anyway. So whatever action that you're going to take against Israel, of course, is going to be countered by all of those supporters of Israel, and is going to be like null and void, or at least muted. So we know that for a fact. So why do we go reinvent the wheel time and again for 75 years, going after the punch bag, which is what Israel is all about? I mean, Israel is created as a spearhead against the entire world and against the region on behalf of the US and all of those regimes that are part of the US plan for the area. We need to go after the bully himself. We need to go after the perpetrator. We need to go after the enemy, the real enemy. Yes, Israel is an enemy, but Israel cannot survive for one day without the support of the US and its network of those dictators. And we are dealing with a cancer. The cancer, you just don't go after the symptoms. You go after the root cause. You basically extract it from the roots. If you are to do any treatment for cancer, you just don't go over dealing with the hair loss and whatever other side effects that you get from chemo or any other treatment. That's the thing. It's a mentality. It's a mindset that we just, unfortunately, we don't have. Look, on the other hand, how the Americans are thinking. Americans are very deliberate. Like they work out every single detail. And right now, let's talk about like, for example, like, what's happening right now, the confrontation. And that's a good example, by the way, because the new developments of Trump taken over and the actions that he's been taking against South Africa, this is a very good example. Like we have a situation like right now in our hands, how we deal with it, right? Of course, the actions against South Africa started before even Trump took office, as censoring South Africa for their ICC and ICG filings. We know that during during Biden, we know that the confrontation that happened when we had the South African Foreign Affairs Minister in New York, and the admonishing that she received from the Biden administration. We know the threats in the U.S. Congress against South Africa and against the courts, ICC and ICJ and so forth. This all started way before even Trump came to office. So we know that. Okay. So what do we do? If we took on, and I keep saying from day one, before even the filing was done to the ICC, at the ICC and ICJ, I said, you have to include the US from day one. I'm not saying this because I don't like the US. I am American. I'm calling from America. I was born here. But America, when America is a rogue nation, when America is the American government is the most notorious criminal terrorist organization in the world, as an American, I'm supposed to stand against supposedly the government that represents me and use every tool that I have as being part of this country, supposedly. And at the same time, like, I have to enlighten others of how do you stand for the body. America is a predator right now, and it's been always a predator. So what do you do when you have like a predator, when you're faced with a predator? You don't run away, you don't like avoid, you don't try to hide. No, you go like head to head with them and push back. And that's how you push the coward, because predators usually are coward and they have psychological issue anyway. That's how you push back against them and you force them to retreat. Where is that way of thinking? Why do we always like whenever we hear the word America or USA, we all like kind of like chicken out, or like, oh, let's not poke the bear. What do you mean? That's not even a bear. So the idea is every effort that was taken against the that we took against Israel should be amended and should be directed towards America first and foremost. Now we have a golden opportunity with Trump. Why? Because Trump is taking on the entire world. He's going after even his own partners and allies. So he's basically making enemies of everybody. So now we have so much in common with so many other parties that we did not have otherwise, right? So if we push back right now in a way that as a part of concerted effort, we can corner that beast, we can corner that bully, and actually make them retreat and have them like sustain significant losses that hopefully will contain them from bullying the rest of the world. Relying on the US aid is a huge mistake. We know that much of the aid crisis that we have in South Africa is manufactured by the US. We know that much of the U.S. leverage on South Africa is through economic means, mostly like through U.S. aid and supposedly the aid to the anti-AIDS or AIDS campaigns. So yes, there's fundamental problems that existed in the system that of relying on the U.S. for a long, long time. Well, now it's time to clean up our act and to learn how to, first of all, like whatever the U.S. gives you comes at a price, and that price is usually like much more hefty than any benefit that you're getting from the US. So what we need right now is that, first of all, you have a situation where, for example, like the ICC, ICJ, the votes that we had in the US Congress against those courts, where's the reaction? Where's the word campaign against the U.S. for basically violating the international laws, the Geneva Convention, and the UN Charter, and the charter of those courts? We haven't heard anything of that. Why? Because it's the U.S. It's the bully. You don't stand against the bully. We have, for example, like kicking out the South Africa ambassador. What do countries do when this happened? Any other country, what would have, if it was Mozambique, what would they do? You kick out the U.S. ambassador, it's plain and simple. What are you afraid of? You kick out the U.S. ambassador, and because you kick out the U.S. ambassador, you're going to become like the
well, definitely, Prof. In fact, what you're saying obviously is very, very true.
Okay, let me just mention something real quick. You know, we know that Elon Musk is South African, apartheid South African. We know that. And we know that it started actually before kicking out the ambassador. And we know, by the way, kicking out the ambassador is mostly because of the influence of Elon Musk. Now, you had the US objecting to the land laws of South Africa. That's what the root cause of the problem is. That you had apartheid in South Africa. You had like almost all the inhabitable and agricultural land of South Africa in the hands of the minority, the white minority, and so forth. And now South Africa is trying to deal with this so we can address the historical social injustice and poverty. We understand that, okay? So South Africa came and they've been struggling for about 30 years now trying to get that law going. The US is having the problem because Elon Musk, of course, mostly. The US is having a problem with that law, and they made statements. Where is the statement from the South African government that this is entirely internal affair? Stay out of this. Where is that? I mean, that's what any country that was sovereignty should do. So when you are silent against all of those intimidations, against all of this bullying, what are you doing? You're inviting more and more and more bullying, and in the process, of course, you make that bully kind of just go further and further.
Well, certainly, in fact, I think what you're saying is very true, Prof, because I think 2 days ago, I had a discussion with someone in South Africa on the South African response, and it's been very mild, it's been very meek, and we obviously expected a very strong response, a stronger response coming through, particularly from the state president of the country. And again, it's economics that is basically dictating this, because we keep on hearing here in South Africa that the US is South Africa's second largest trading partner. And, all of that at the end of the day is a stumbling block and preventing South Africa from issuing even stronger statements. But, again, the country, as a country, we know exactly how we feel about the United States of America, how we feel about the US and its support for Israel, what Israel is doing in Palestine. And I think, again, like you mentioned, is if there are missed opportunities, at least at activist level or civil society level, I think we need to see a lot more action. We need to be able to preempt. We need to be able to be more strategic in terms of how we respond as civil society to put the type of pressure that the government needs to be put in.
Brother, if we take examples of how and when and where America was humiliated in the last, let's say, 60, 70 years. Vietnam, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, just to name a few. Lebanon at some point, right? All of those countries, when this happened, those countries were supposedly at the weakest, poorest, most helpless state in their history. Yet they managed to humiliate, defeat, inflict massive damage and casualties, and force the US to retreat. I mean, we already have the proof over our lifetime of those instances where these countries were able to push back against the US. And keep in mind this: not only they were the poorest so far, the US took every measure against those countries, like sanctions. You're talking about military actions. You're talking about international pressure. You're talking about siege and boycotts. You're talking about everything. Like, the US has not left anything that they couldn't do against all of those countries. And in spite of all of this, just for pushing back, they were able to deal blows very painful blows back to this US supposedly superpower. So we need to do that. We need to learn the lesson. Why? I don't understand. Why do we chicken out? Why in our responses when it comes to America we have to think 1,000 times, but when the US wants to do something to us, they don't even have to think about it. They just do it and say, let's see what happens. We need to think to change our mindset. As a Muslim, by the way, this is mandatory on you. It's not nice of you. It's mandatory on you. Even if it comes for us, for example, say, oh, this is a political matter and let's see what's more political feasible. Well, we have a rule. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله وإلى الرسول. Oh, Muslims, if you disagree on something, well, take it back to Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, it's very clear. The rules are very clear. Let me give you example. For example, like the failures that we have here. For example, the Muslim failure that we have here in the United States of America, which is historical, by the way. So I'm not blaming, you know, Muslims outside the U.S. for failing their part. No, actually, I blame first and foremost Muslims inside America for failing their part. I came on your show one time and I mentioned the failure of Muslims back in 2000 by giving support to George Bush and causing the Iraq war and everything else. And you heard, I'm not going to mention who it was and what he said, but you heard how, like, you know, supposedly, you know, the response to them. Well, guess what? When we were coming to Trump and this election, I brought up the very same issue when we're Arab Americans, Muslims, and so forth, giving support to Trump. And remember, like, look how bad it was when you have imams going on stage, in public during Trump campaign, lying on Allah, saying that Allah saved your life so you can save more lives. We all heard about this, heard that statement, and we all remember that statement. I mean, not only is politically suicidal, but also lying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, this is complete blasphemy against Allah, against Islam. When you have Muslim leaders and talking about imams making that statement, taking that position, I mean, that shows like we deserve the humiliation and the defeat because we are basically tampering with Allah's rules and Allah's ways. Like, we are lying on Allah for the sake of what? For the sake of some, like, you know, to be appeased by somebody. And that bully, by the way, something that I want to mention, people who follow my X account, there was the Times of Israel, which is a Israeli newspaper, at its main headline and on the front page, they had like a story running saying that Trump is the first Jewish U.S. president. And in it, they had a complete report about a trip that he made with his family, with his wife, his family, his daughter, and his son-in-law. They met to Jerusalem, and he was ordained Jews by the rabbis of Israel. Okay, so now we are dealing with somebody who's a Zionist, who's an Israeli, who's like, you know, I mean, like straight out. And you go and you give that endorsement, you give that support. Okay, you know, the argument at the time that was we could not vote for Kamala Harris because she's Zionist and Biden. So we understand that. But we said that, you know, you just don't give out Muslim votes. You can, like, as a politician, you always have to deal with whoever, especially like if you are part of the US and so forth. You know, as far as being pragmatic, you have to deal with the political reality. So you have to deal with both candidates, especially like in election season. But you can never, ever, under any circumstance, give your vote to an enemy of Islam, enemy of humanity, and so forth. The best that they could have negotiated with him is guarantees and concessions and so forth. In return, not voting for him. In return, not to vote for the other one, the Zionists. We're not going to vote for Kamala Harris anyway. But
Prof,
at least,
sorry, can I just stop you? You know, I am actually very, very pressed for time. You know, what you've raised is such an important topic, and it's something that we need to have in our, you know, usual Wednesday evening discussions where you've got a lot of time on our hands. Unfortunately, you know, because this is the Iftar drive, we've got one or two other interviews lined up as well. But I think what you're saying is just so important, and it's something that we need to explore at some point in time in a lot more detail. Hopefully, inshallah, after the month of Ramadan, when we have a lot more time, Prof. But what you've mentioned, and particularly with regard to Trump and you know, an ordained Jew and the Muslim vote, the imams, again, I think there's just so much to actually unpack from what you've said already. And inshallah, after the month of Ramadan, we definitely will set aside more time, inshallah, where we can take this discussion further.
Yes, I mean, I think the point that we just need to emphasize that we need to push back against the U.S. and its cancer Zionist project, including those Arab dictators and so forth. We have, alhamdulillah, at least 6-7 embassies and diplomatic missions that we can demonstrate against. Maybe not all at once, but you know, we got our work cut out for us, inshallah.
No problem. Jazakallah khairan so much, and all the best for the rest of the month of Ramadan as well, Prof. Allah accept your efforts, Allah reward your efforts as well, and please keep us in your du'as.
Inshallah, brother. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Ameen. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Professor Nidal Sakr with us this afternoon, and really such an interesting, such a dynamic discussion. And it's just a pity that we don't have much more time. Otherwise, there are a lot of other issues to unpack. But what we will be unpacking next are the voices from Palestine. And this afternoon, we have the pleasure and the company of Nurain Saluji, and we're talking about the youth. In particular, how youth activists are actually shaping the future of human rights in the fight for Palestine, defying injustice. That is the topic.